You're listening to Oppositional Forces. Bad guys for good reasons. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Oppositional Forces. I am your host, Scotty Don't. With me is the last Jotun / Frost Giant of the Frozen North. Mr. Frost, say hi.
What's up?
Okay, kitty cat. Welcome. It is full swing December, and we are freezing to death. I'm so glad that we don't live in the frozen North Tundra because I don't think I would survive. Now,
They got like 12 to 14 inches last night up north.
in what, Salt Lake or Park City?
No, in like Bountiful, Salt Lake area.
Ugh. Yeah.
Right? That sucked. We got some rain and some heavy wind. That's what we got last night.
Yeah. I mean, even for a frost giant like you, like Mr. Frost don't take the cold all that well.
Yeah, I was just crying about it actually.
Well, couple of things before we get started with our amazing episode. I want to make a quick shout out to all of our new Patreon subscribers. For those of you that have not subscribed to our Patreon, do so now. Hit pause, go to patreon.com/oppositional forces and go throw some money at us so we can do some cool stuff, because
Please.
we wants to do some cool stuff for you guys, and that is only made possible when we got ducats in our pockets.
Yeah.
Well, in the business coffers.
Yeah.
Not trying to go like pilfering it and hit Vegas. Well, I mean, bad guys, you know what I'm saying? So, and on top of that, big shout out to our executive producer, Thomas Larson.
Thank you, sir.
You are amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. And big shout out to everybody for the holiday season. Hope you're being safe out there. Hope you're making good choices. If you're not, call us and we'll set you straight. We'll make sure that you got somewhere to be and something to do and won't hurt anybody, including yourself, because 'tis the season and we care about you.
Yes. Yes, we love you.
All right. So,
Those are words that I don't say on a regular basis.
right.
So everybody knows that.
It's a big deal.
It is.
And, don't take that lightly. We love you.
We do.
We do. So today, I want to get real for a second. We talk a lot about being, bad guys. And if you've listened to our first episode, we kind of dive deep into what that kind of means to us, what that entails. But the good reason part seems to escape some, because they think, oh, you're out there and making mischief and, with all the training and pushing people around and giving people a hard time and not giving a, flying J, like just.
Flying J. What's a flying J?
Well, I mean, this is family friendly. Like,
since when did we become family friendly? We have an explicit freaking content.
oh, you know me, like the
Just because your kids are home doesn't mean that suddenly we're going to go appropriate.
Look, I'm convinced that at some point my mother might accidentally hit the play button on one of my episodes.
And she's going to hear you say, fuck. Not like
Scotty.
She hasn't heard you say that in the past.
Scotty, don't.
Right.
And that's where the name came from, and it stuck.
I'm very sure it did, because I've heard her say it numerous times.
But today we want to indoctrinate all of you into what it is to be a bad guy and how. So,
Steps to how.
Sure. The open door to come on in and, Willy Wonka style, come with me and you'll see.
No, we're not singing. He'll sing the whole song.
Right. So being a bad guy for a good reason means you have to have a good reason, right? We're not knocking over liquor stores and boosting cars for fun.
Oh, okay. Just clarifying. Like, we're not? Wait.
The liquor store pays us,
Right.
and then we rob the liquor store.
Right.
We're boosting cars in the junkyard to better our skill set, not, smashing windows and boosting cars out on the street.
Right. Yeah.
These are skill sets that, we use so that we can better the people around us in, a myriad of different ways. And in order to join forces with us, I think a lot of people have to understand like the purpose behind it. When Mr. Frost comes up behind a woman at 2 a.m. leaving her office, it's because she's asked him that at a time of his choosing, I want you to sneak up on me, so that I can understand what that is like, so I can learn how to deal with it.
Right.
That's stress inoculation.
Absolutely. I mean, we could go down a road for many other reasons for that, but it would never be in a negative condensation or
Connotation.
Connotation. Sorry, not condensation. Whatever.
It's
Same
cold
difference.
outside.
Yes.
There's frost developing on the windows.
Yeah. That brings up a really good point that when Scotty says things like, hey, Mr. Frost comes up behind somebody or a female or something like that, we really need to stress that consent is there. Like
Consent is sexy.
Yeah, it is. Like, if there's no consent, it, as snowflakey as some people want to call it, consent is a big thing in other communities that I belong to, because it's everybody needs consent. Everybody needs to have a say. Now, if we're actually doing something evil, well, then they've already given consent because I have a reason to be evil.
Right. And as the resident libertarian, consent is important for the marketplace. And so in order for people to gain the valuable skills that we offer, that we teach, they have to first be informed and make that informed consent.
Right.
Yes, I would like you to break into my building. Okay. You understand what that's going to entail, right? So here is this legal document that says I am allowed to cause, although minimal, property damage, that I'm allowed to,
Possibly scare the shit out of somebody who is in the building
yeah,
or even at a desk or something like that. Like, that's gonna happen.
right. I'm allowed in your restricted areas if I am able to get into them.
Right.
I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to look at your personnel files or something like that, but I'm going to wave at the camera that you have in your file room
Hopefully
and let
that
you know
have in your file.
I made it.
Right.
So, and being a bad guy is,
I'll probably put on a tutu while I do it. Just so you all know.
and then I'll throw that video up on YouTube.
Yes.
Being a bad guy is, it's a responsibility, because when you put the heat to other people, to temper them, with the fire of training, it's not something that you can just take lightly. You're throwing chaos against the wall and hoping that these lessons stick hard enough that
Makes their brain work.
that gets those juices flowing, so that when it's not a game anymore, when it's not training.
Right. When you feel like you're in a fight or flight mode with me, you know that you're fighting. Like, your mindset is, it's not, we practice disarming somebody. Not that I would really do that anymore, but that old situation of, you can ask Mr. Valentine, there's case study even proven that cops, when they practice disarming, that they will hand the gun back to the suspect because they get in that groove of, oh, I disarmed you, I'm handing it back to you so I can disarm, so I can be disarmed.
Right. And if you adjust that training by using a bad guy, you take the firearm from me, the training pistol, and take 3 steps back.
And I'm still coming after you.
And you get to develop, that understanding that there's more to it. Right. That's why, like in the Marine Corps, we started practicing things like, boom, 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 failure stop drill, whatever.
Right.
And then look around.
Peanut butter, jam.
Right. Because we were training, in years past to boom, 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 and be focused on the target in front of us. And people were forgetting the look around part. So we had to add it, to the training so that those things would be in your head for later. So
look around, get off the X, things like that.
Right. Just, there's little nuances to all of this, but ultimately, our goal is to bring good quality training to people and breed more bad guys like us. And to be honest, as we're building what we do up and upscaling, we're going to need more bad guys.
Right. Even just in your general life, if you don't start using your brain, if you don't start thinking for yourself, somebody else is going to think for you.
Right.
That's the truth of the matter of, you need to start having a voice. You need to start thinking for yourself. I saw a really cool meme. I'm going to have to look it up, but I'm going to say it on here it's about work and programs and things like that. But anyways, I'll let you go through and I'm going to look for that meme actually.
Yeah. So, that's the good reasons part. So, hopefully as we kind of push forward through the rest of this episode, you're thinking of the applicability of the training that goes into becoming a bad guy and trying to apply that to different parts of your life, whether it's at the office or at home or with your friends or with your, training team, whatever you do. I don't want to use the big M word, militia, because apparently a, well-regulated militia, as the Second Amendment puts it, is now apparently just synonymous with terrorist,
organization,
domestic terrorist organization. Yeah. But, your local gun club, these things should resonate with you and say, a couple of these should stick out and you say, oh, I really need to try that.
Right. And that comes down to training, no matter how you look at it. And I found that meme, and it's not really a meme, but maybe it is. I don't know. Somebody made it into a meme. I don't know if it's something they came up with. It's my boy, Tommy Brooks. But it says, there's no magic training program that will solve a work ethic problem. Even the best program won't work unless you do. So that has a lot to do with, mindset of, if you're not willing to put in the work and do the things that you need to do, whether that be fitness, eating right, training, practicing what you learn in the training courses, it's for nothing.
Wait, so you're telling me I can't just watch all of the John Wick movies in succession and I'm ready to go?
Frame by frame, trying to figure out how to do that.
Picking it apart.
Yeah.
I can't do that?
No.
I can't watch the movies and then be a 3-gun expert?
No.
Oh.
No. I'm not even a 3-gun expert. I was involved with 3-gun. I'm not even an expert in shooting a pistol. Let's just be honest with that.
I have a shiny badge from the Marine Corps that says I'm an expert with a pistol. Does that count?
No.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't.
I can't just hang that one on the wall and, you know,
you're the badass
and claim it for the rest of my life. No. Okay.
No.
All right, fine. Whatever. I hate you too.
Okay.
So why do we train? There's a couple of reasons why Mr. Frost and I, Mr. Valentine, our other bad guy cohorts, train regularly. And a lot of this has to do with diminishing skill sets. And Mr. Frost tried to explain in a less eloquent way what diminishing skill sets are.
Less eloquent. You don't use it, well, you fucking lose it. That's what it comes down to.
See, there you go. I knew that you could. I knew you could hit the nail on the head in like 8 words or less.
Right.
And one of those words was going to be a fuck.
Right. Right. You're welcome.
So
family friendly, my ass.
Hey, listen. You know,
I know.
I gotta try.
I know.
At some point, or not.
At least
fuck it.
Is.
So, yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it. And there's a lot of this that goes on. You know, people say, oh, you know, it's like riding a bike. Well, have you not ridden a bike for like 3 years? Climb on. Like, yeah, you'll still get going, but I'm not going to throw you, you know, on a mountain biking trail the same day. You know, that's
unless you're in really good shape and your ass is still going to hurt. I'm going to tell you, once I started going to the gym and just getting on an elliptical bike, I'm going to tell you what, like I felt like the big green weenie of the Marine Corps took a hold of me and really got me for like probably a good 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It hurt.
Well, you know, it's like, I don't get on a horse for 2 or 3 years at a time sometimes, but when I do, then I ride all day. And then I feel that for 2 weeks.
Right.
But no, I mean, like these diminishing skill sets, there's a bunch of things that if I don't practice, if I don't make use of those skills, I can wake up one day and be like, oh shit, like, how do I do this thing?
Right.
You know, fill in the blank. But
I did it every day for 3 years and I can't even remember where to start over.
Right. You know, all of a sudden I start, you know, trying to disassemble one of my firearms to give it a good cleaning, as you should regularly. And I've got to turn back to YouTube like, oh man, how does this B&T come apart?
Right.
Swiss made.
It's like trying to change out roll pins if you know how to do that on an H&K. Like Mr. Valentine, when he was changing out parts on his H&K, on a regular, I was on the phone with him and he's like, these goddamn pin roll fucking bolt, like literally sounded like, what's his name from Christmas Story or whatever that movie is, like,
oh yeah, A Christmas Story. The dad, as he just starts muttering every expletive he can think of.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's like anything, you know, so you have to not only pick up these skill sets that we're talking about and train, but then train regularly. If you're not going to, you know, to a shooting range, or you're not going out, you know, to go shooting on a fairly regular basis, it's not going to feel comfortable. Not that, you know, a firefight feels comfortable, but it's not going to be smooth in your brain when you try to then execute, you know, in the moment of truth.
Right. Not that everybody's getting in a firefight all the time, even if you're running around with a gun.
Right.
You know, I'd like to stress this because when we talked in our last episode with Mr. Henry, that's right. Afterwards, he brought up a really good point. And I say this, those of you who know me in person, not everything is pew-pew. Like, you need to remember that. Like, in a gunfight, I'm trying to throw away the word like, I do apologize. But you need to think about it. Not everything is pew-pew. So you got to start looking at blade work, groundwork, jiu-jitsu, boxing, you know, taekwondo, whatever it is. But I do recommend starting building blocks from the ground up. So jiu-jitsu,
Right.
boxing, wrestling, things like that.
You have to be prepared for the inevitable. The inevitable is coming for you, whether you're ready or not.
Right.
And it's not, this isn't some sort of cautionary tale that everyone's going to suddenly wake up, sometime in the next few months and be confronted with a situation where they have to draw their firearm. I'm talking about everybody can pick out a scenario where they're suddenly confronted with a situation that they have to handle in the immediate. And if you don't have the skill that's necessary for that, if you don't have the ability to call someone with that skill, or the person with that skill is too far away, now all of a sudden you're in a really hard spot.
Right. I mean, let's think about it. What can happen in 2 minutes? Like, let's just say
everything.
Let's just say that somebody comes into your house or somebody assaults you out in a parking lot. Even if you dial 911 and you, or 811 or 411, 211, whatever it is in whatever country, and you're a block away from the station. Just because it goes to the station doesn't mean that you're safe. It's a block away. But those cops aren't just hanging out at the police station. They're out on patrol. They're out and about.
Yeah. Drive by a police station at 2:00 in the morning and see how many of the units are just sitting there, with their engines all warmed up, ready to go.
Right. And
like one.
Maybe. And that's the watch commander because he's going back for whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the thing to think about. In 2 minutes, a lot of things can happen. A lot of things can happen in a minute.
Yeah. Drunk bar fights.
They feel like
muggings, car accidents. When we start talking about medical training, accidents at home, fires. You're suddenly confronted with, a situation where, your principal has torn their trousers and they're about to go on stage in T-minus 5 minutes and counting. And you've got him stripping his trousers off backstage.
And you're throwing a needle and thread.
You're going Betsy Ross on that crotch.
Right.
Sewing that thing up real quick because you keep a little mini sewing kit, in your gear.
Right.
And you're just like, sir, I got it. Pants off. Like,
right. Let's go into the green room. We'll shut everybody off. Let's go.
Yeah. Like the blown out tires on the road. You can think of a million things where if you don't know how to change a tire, if you don't know how to recognize the warning signs, for, engine malfunctions or, you're ruining dinner, like it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
If you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
So preparedness for the inevitable. Be prepared for the things that are coming for you. And you're going to turn around tomorrow and be confronted with something, and you are either going to say, somebody is going to, be there and be ready, or somebody, is not going to be there and it's going to be me. Sometimes you have to be prepared for the guy blowing leaves outside
in the parking lot,
where I have to hit pause on the recording and be like, what in the actual fuck is going on out there in the middle of the night?
Walking around our vehicles, and he's actually doing positive things.
Yeah, he's doing his job at 11:30 at night in the middle of December.
Well, you got to figure with that, trying to avoid disrupting business.
Oh, sure. No, I get it. So, and the other thing is you got to keep the torch lit. How many perishable skills are out there that people were taught how to do for generations and then something gets invented, some career, becomes a daily job for somebody that fills that gap, and you no longer have to know how to do it, right?
Shit.
Changing spark plugs on your car.
Gapping spark plugs.
Yeah. Like, I used to know how to do that.
Right.
On my 78 Camaro in high school, or my dad's 81 Ford Ranger 2. But today, like, I'm driving a flipping Volkswagen, like German cars.
You're driving a Porsche made transmission. Like, you're not going to go and start dealing with linkage and things like that.
Right. Well, and you look at something like Audi, they don't use gaskets on the block. And so everything is machined perfectly to sit on itself. And, if you don't know what you're doing, like, you've got to pay somebody for it, but you should at least know, how to change a tire, how to start, how to make sourdough starter, how to,
I don't know how to do that.
Plant a plant and keep it alive.
That is true.
Not all plants are created equal. You can't plant a banana tree in southern Utah and expect it to survive like it would if you planted that thing in, Brazil. Like, there's externalities there that you have to be aware of. There's plants all over town that get wrapped up every year. You'll see the palm trees everywhere.
Right.
If the palm trees, the heart of the palm doesn't get wrapped up and that palm freezes, it's dead.
DED, dead.
So keeping the torch lit for perishable skills that a lot of people don't have anymore. And you just start digging into it. There's a bunch of stuff.
Well, just think about it. Like, when I was younger, like way younger,
way younger.
This is going to age
bastard.
me, but there was microwaves, of course. But I grew up in environments, even in the foster care system, where we didn't have microwaves in some of those, in some of those places that I lived. Just knowing how to use a stovetop, being able to heat stuff up,
stovetops, ovens,
right? A grill.
Oh, that's a big one. Now we we got Traegers out there.
Right.
I have a Traeger, and if I don't have power, guess what? I ain't grilling.
Right.
I don't have a briquette, charcoal wood fired grill.
Right.
I got a pellet fed, perfect temperature, monitors everything for me, probes, and if I don't have power, we ain't.
Or internet access sometimes with some of those Traegers, like our friend
for the Bluetooth.
for our friend Bear that we met this last Thanksgiving.
Shout out to Bear.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, it's just letting me know on my phone the alert." And I'm like, "What?"
The internal temperature is nearly there.
Yeah, I can turn on my Traeger from work, and just have my wife come and drop it off and just put it in there and plug the probes into it and shut the lid, and I turn it on when I'm ready.
Yep. So, there's just like Facebook is advertising to me all the time. These different like survivalist books and things like that. Cause
I'm going to get a bunch of Traeger shit on my Facebook now. Watch.
Yeah. Cause our phones are constantly listening to us. But do you know how to make lard? Do you know, how to tie a handful of like critical life-saving knots? Do you know how to start a fire? Do you know where fire comes from? Like, what are the three elements of fire? Fuel, oxygen, and heat. Or no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So
I'm going to wildland fire school right now. we beat the shit out of that fucking topic.
I questioned myself for a second. I was like, wait, heat? Like,
Yeah.
yes, heat.
Heat.
Yep. You got to have heat. So, as we're going through this list here, be aware that not everybody knows this stuff. When I went to boot camp, I was raised Mormon, and from the time I was knee high to a grasshopper, I was tying ties, like neckties. And I was in the Boy Scouts, because that's actually, or it was until it got all like political. But it was like a staple of young Mormons growing up.
They were one of the biggest supporters of the Boy Scout.
Yeah. No, a lot of troops have gone to the wayside now.
Right.
And so there was a lot of things that I learned that people just don't know. Like just tying a necktie in boot camp. I had guys standing around, fumbling around, with the little paper instructions that they handed out. They're like, oh man, like,
oh, you guys got instructions? We had a drill instructor yelling at us, it's fucked up! It's fucked up, unfuck yourself!
No, but like each squad leader had like the printout. And so they were walking around like, all right, here, let's see this. No. And I'm standing there like looking at everybody like, I should help them. Like
I still can't tie a tie very well. I can't. And I wear a tie, well, not so much anymore, but there for a while, I was wearing a tie on a regular basis.
Yeah. And if you try to put on a necktie and it's been 5 years and now you got to go to a funeral or a wedding, like, oh, God help you. Right. Pull out YouTube.
No,
but now
Mr. Valentine, that's what I do. And then he ties like 6 or 7 ties for me and I just leave them hung up. That's what I do.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of things like this. So let's get into the list. And once again, as we're going through this, creating a bad guy from whole cloth. It's not one size fits all. And some of these things you grew up with and you just know inherently. And some of these things you're like, oh yeah, no, I have no idea how to do that.
Yeah. Or even where to look to find that out other than you got Google. You can build a spaceship from Google. If you got the money, like it gives you plans for a spaceship.
I'm sure with...
No, I'm dead serious. If you had the money for it.
Like with the tolerances? And
yeah, everything.
I don't know about that because
No.
Otherwise North Korea wouldn't have such a hard time getting their rockets up off the ground.
Yeah, I'm serious. Gives you tolerances, gives you measurements, everything.
I can't tell you how many.
Somebody proved it to me. I was like, no. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You technically could get a doctorate. I mean, not accredited by any means, but through Google alone, you could have the knowledge.
Well, MIT, all of their books, all their curriculum is online for free.
Right.
So you can have an MIT education, you just won't have the certificate.
Right.
So, I mean, there's that. I get that. Okay. I understand where you're coming from. I remember we would watch with anticipation when I was living in Japan, when I was stationed out there in Iwakuni, and we would watch North Korea try to do these like test launches, and the footage you just watch these things blow up on the tarmac or on the launch pad, and you're just like, oh, you poor sad man.
Right. Like
angry little Kim, his rocket blew up. So what types of training should you have? Now, once again, this is bad guy, 101, and there's bad guy, 202 and 303. So
I don't think there's a stopping level for bad guy.
No, there's all kinds of, and one of which actually Henry touched on in the last episode. That's go to jail.
Right.
But that's like bad guy level 5. Like go get real cred.
Right. Go get yourself on the books.
Yep. So driving. This is a big one for me because I think you all suck. Get off the road. I hate you, and you're in my way. Discuss.
Okay.
You should take a defensive driving class.
I agree. But you are an angry driver when you're tired and hungry. And I think that...
defensive driver.
No, you're an angry driver. Yeah, because you're screaming and yelling and asking me to hand over a gun sometimes.
We'll agree to disagree. The gun has a lot of uses on the road. No,
No, it does not. No, it does not. And you know what I'm talking about. You're a good driver. I'm not disputing that you're not a good driver.
Right.
But your ability to stay calm once you get hangry or super tired, like that goes out the window.
Right. And so you should take a defensive driving class. You should take even something above that level. And what do I mean by that? So there's a bunch of different places you can go. If you're in the security industry, law enforcement, things like that, there are driving schools that you can go to.
You don't have to be just in the security or law enforcement. Anybody can go to these courses.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I'm saying that there's a handful of them that exist. There's
directed one.
Right. So there's TDI. That's a really good one if you want to learn how to push vehicles around, flip them around, roll them over.
VDI.
Or VDI. Thank you.
I'm
going to get a ninja star in the face.
Yes,
Eric's throwing one from Florida right now. Like,
Eric,
you idiot.
Yeah.
VDI.
A5 out of California that we just met this last week.
Right. There's RKI, Don Barrick. That's a really good one for off-road as well, for off-road recovery of vehicles. And there should be something in your repertoire that says I can take a car and get it from point A to point B in rain, snow, ice, and being in a barrage of gunfire. So for the bad guy, for a bad guy.
Right. And I'm not disputing that. I'm actually just kind of laughing because like we said earlier, up north in Salt Lake, they got like 12 to 14 inches of snow last night from the storm blowing up there. And just seeing everybody's memes of like, we live in a state where we know it snows every year, and you dumb fucks can't even stay out of the ditch longer than fucking 20 minutes when you leave your house. Like, seriously, slow down.
Yeah.
Cool, you have a big truck. It has 4-wheel drive. 4-wheel drive doesn't make you stop.
Right. And 4-wheel drive was never designed for 60 miles an hour.
Right.
You will
still not designed.
You will
for 60
burn up
miles.
that box so fast,
Right.
and nobody gets it. I see them like plowing through. They're like, I got 4-wheel. Like, good luck, bud.
Yeah, like when you have to go replace your full 4-wheel drive and your transmission.
Yeah.
In the next 2 years, or trade it in and. Well, it works, but you really got to shove it in there, or even when I turn the knob, I gotta tap the steering wheel 3 times, and kick the dash box, and turn my lights on 4 times, and it'll kick on.
Right. One of the things that you should understand, not only about driving, but is your vehicles and their capabilities. So you should understand that if you're hearing for the first time that your 4-wheel drive pickup shouldn't be going over 35 in 4-wheel drive?
Low 4.
Huh?
Low 4.
Low 4.
Yes.
Yeah. You're creating enough heat to turn the lubricant into pudding.
Right.
So that's why you're having the trouble that you are. Right. Learn how to change a tire. Learn how to change your own oil.
Learn how to change a U-joint.
Yeah. And
especially if you have 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Because you're going to break that motherfucker if you're running at 60 miles an hour in high 4. I promise. Eventually, you're just going to hit on that gas and be like, woohoo, hold my beer, watch this. And you're going to hear clink, clink. And fuck, I'm not going anywhere.
Yep.
Why am I not going anywhere? My engine works, truck runs. Get out and you see your drive line in 2 pieces.
Yeah. It looks like an excited dog because your drive shaft is
sorry, that's
hardened to the floor.
Not necessarily when you're in 4-wheel drive, but when you beat the shit out of your vehicle out of 4-wheel drive, because usually you have to put your vehicle in 4-wheel drive to get yourself home, but you can still break that U-joint. And it's actually just 1 bolt. Sometimes you have to beat the shit out of it to get it undone, but replacing it is literally 1 bolt.
Right. Shooting, firearms and tactics. I can't stress enough. It's not about being John Wick. It's not about doing some sort of, 3-gun competition level but you should be able to do pistol to rifle transitions. You should be able to competently shoot multiple targets with a pistol and with a rifle.
I promote people to go to 3 guns. Actually,
It's great training.
But I think that, I mean, it's not necessarily for the speed side of it, but I just think that it's a great hobby to get into if you can get sponsored. But
yeah, it's also super fucking expensive.
Right. I'm just saying, like, promoting people to get into shooting, period.
100%.
You want to pick up something that's cool, explore 3 gun.
Right. Zombie defense shooting, NRA competitions and, for novice and all sorts of stuff. The poker game style competitions. Right. I've done those.
Yeah, 5 gun or 6 shooter Western shooting or
cowboy
whatever.
Action.
Yeah. I love watching that stuff. You couldn't pay me enough to try and do it, but I love watching some of that stuff sometimes.
Yeah. Alec Baldwin with a wheel gun.
I'm pretty sure you guys all felt that eye roll through the podcast. Anyways.
So, you should understand how to control a hard space in your home and how to clear your house. So there's, the tactics.
Having a plan and communication with that, with your spouse and kids.
Right.
Where your kid's going to be. Sure, maybe you're blasting a shotgun in your house, but, just because it's a shotgun doesn't mean you're not going to blast your wife that's hiding behind the door, on the other side of the wall because she knows how to run and gun with you. And suddenly you just blasted your spouse because you heard something and you got startled.
Right. And with the shooting and the tactics, you also have to understand your state laws. In some states, you absolutely are obligated, if you can find the way to do so, to get out of harm's way. There's no stand your ground. There's no castle, appropriate castle doctrine. So these are things that you should just know. So as Mr. Frost's eyes roll into oblivion,
right.
All I saw was white in your eyes.
God damn. Fuck off. But yeah, I mean, and then on top of that, when you start talking about your home, think about fire too. Like, what kind of plans do you have for fire? If you got kids, like you have a 2 or 3 story house, do you have ladder ropes that your kids know how to throw into the window and where to go? Do they know? Do they know what they're doing?
Yeah. Where's the rally point?
Right. Like, oh, we're going to, run to the neighbors and call 911 or.
And which neighbor?
Right. Or just go out into the middle of the road, you know what I mean? Get away. Like, do they know where to meet up? Do they know who's safe to talk to? Like, those are, even though that's a safety thing, that's a bad guy thing too.
Yeah. Briefly, lock picking. I'm a big fan of lock picking. Mr. Frost, he likes to argue, against, but it's a good skill set to have if you want to be a bad guy and get into penetration testing.
I agree that the lock picking is a skill that you should have and you should practice. I think that, it's also a skill that can get you pretty fucking hemmed up pretty quick.
Right. Emergency situations only.
You got to be able to understand your state deal as well, because in some states, you carrying a lockpick set and you not being an actual locksmith can get you in some fucking trouble.
It can be considered burglary tools.
Right.
If you're skulking around at night and you have lockpicks in your pocket, like, yes, you might end up in a sticky situation. So it's definitely for like your tier 3 carry, like in your go bag or something like that. That's not getting rifled through by law enforcement.
But I just want to point that out. And, and it's a skill that you have to practice on a regular basis. Even though Mr. Scotty over here knows how to do it, sometimes I get a little impatient because it's like, bro, give it up. Just fucking give it up. I got a key right here. Fuck off. Let's go. I got things to do.
It's a diminishing skill set.
No,
I got to practice.
I get that, but you pick the most inopportune time sometimes to do it.
Sure.
Anyways.
Surveillance and counter surveillance. Obviously we've done episodes on this, so I'm not going to kick that too hard, but you need to be current at the very least of what's going on. What is the regular, what's the scoop on what people are doing today, tomorrow, as the actual bad guys. How are they watching you? How can you watch them? What kind of tools are they using? And I think we covered a lot of that with Henry in the last episode.
Right.
So
and I want to throw this out. Part of that counter surveillance and surveillance situation is looking at your sex offender lists, especially if you have children, or usually, not always, but they usually say what the offense is. Mm-hmm. So if you see a name on there, pay attention what it says, because there are some people that, like, they got caught peeing on the side of a freaking freeway exit, and a cop happened to see them peeing, and now it's public exposure.
Right.
When they
at
were
2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. So be aware. But when you see the sex offender list and you see pedophiles and things like that, keep that in your mind. I'm not telling you to go hunting, as much as that sounds like a good time to me. I don't. Just know what's around you, who's around you, what's going on, and keep an eye on that, because that's something that you should really pay attention to.
Right.
I'm going to make some gloves out of that horse that I just beat.
Being a gray man. Being a gray man is a really great skill. And what I mean by gray man is the everyman, the guy who slips in and out of a room and really doesn't raise an eyebrow. He's not wearing, pimp orange, with a big broad Sunday hat, fedora, with a cane. The gray man can walk into a room and nobody looks up from their phones. The gray man can order a coffee and the barista can't describe him. Like, I don't know. He was like a white dude.
White dude that
maybe Italian, Hispanic. I don't know. Like, if you can practice being unnoticed, that is a huge thing for a bad guy.
That will never be me.
Well, height isn't everything. It really depends on where you are. If you're in the gym, right, and you want to disappear, you look like all the other gym people do, but maybe you dress down just a little bit more and
get rid of my big red shoes.
You avert your gaze. You don't make a bunch of loud grunts and
screams, and
you're not ogling the females with your eyes and stuff like that. Where people are taking notice of you.
Sometimes that's really hard.
So there are actually, some really great courses from that, for that. On Point Tactical is a really great place for that. Learning how to gray man in an urban environment with the Urban E&E class. Hopefully sometime soon, we'll get some dates out to you for that one, because we're still waiting on some rescheduling.
I met he's somebody that I actually follow on Instagram. He has something that's called the Grain Man Project. I can't remember his name now, and I feel like an asshole because I thought he was actually somebody else, and he wasn't. But he just played it off. But he is a former devil dog, bruh, and he had a pretty big TikTok account, and then he has a lot of followers on Instagram. I don't know if some of you know who that was. It's his name was Adults Are Talking, but his handle on Instagram is the Gray Man Project, and he does executive protection. He does some of that stuff that. He's just a fascinating guy. And if you get a chance, go check him out. He's a dope dude. He's definitely rough around the edges, and he doesn't give a fuck. So if you get easily offended, he probably can push your buttons.
Yeah. So, there's a bunch of ways that you can skin that cat. Part of being a gray man and part of being a bad guy is social engineering,
Right.
manipulation, neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP.
Some of my favorite stuff.
Oh, yeah. And being able to mind fuck the people around you, either in a good way or in a bad way, can...
Never use that stuff in a bad way.
Well, I use them against real bad guys.
Right, but I'm just saying...
Bad actors. So...
Right, and I say that because when you get into NLP and you understand how it works and that manipulation side of things, you can use it to your advantage in a lot of ways. And
it can get dark fast.
Right, and you have to be conscious of that.
Right.
I really think that you need to be conscious of that because you can slip down into a deep hole pretty quickly.
Right. I mean, it's like once you learn how to code and you start delving into, penetration testing electronically. Penetration testing is just, a cute word for hacking. And if you start getting into the hacker, world, hacker community, and you start, self-educating, sometimes it's all too easy to go from white hat to gray hat to black hat.
Yes.
So
thank you.
It's just a matter of maintaining focus on why you are here and what you're doing.
Right.
So some other ones that a lot of people pass over and they don't think about, and we've talked about this before, but it's medical training. It's not just getting your first aid and AED training, and calling it a day. A lot of workplaces require that you do first aid and AED training in order to carry, I want to say, I forget what state it is. Is it Utah that requires first aid and AED for security licensing? No, but I've seen it before.
Right. It's not Utah because I am very deficient in that certification, if that's the case.
Yeah. But there's a lot of places that do require that you have some level of medical training,
right,
for employment. And that's an easy answer to the question, should I know medical? And the answer is always yes. It doesn't matter if you're a parent, a roommate, you're at the workplace,
you're a student,
whatever it is, having the ability to stop a bleed, to compress, wounds appropriately, throw on a tourniquet, run an AED. These are things that can save a life. And if you can save a life, then you should. That's a really hard stare that you're getting me. I'm waiting for you to come in and be like, yeah, absolutely. It's gonna,
No.
And you're like, nah, let him die.
Well,
the dead air we just had on the microphones.
We all know where I'm going with that, but there's just some people that need to be
sure. Okay. You know what? And
yeah, in general, yes. If you can help somebody, please help them.
Yeah.
But do not go above your scope of training.
Right. So there's stop the bleed training. There's TCCC. There's EMT, paramedic. Now, obviously, those are more advanced. But I was just talking to some guys the other day at the IPSB conference that do live tissue. And I'm very excited about that. Yes, I know, shush.
Don't ruin it for the fucking rest of us, you jackass.
It's overseas, and they're Malaysians, and it's going to be a good time.
Anyways, but we're going to go to that training anyhow.
Yeah, because
we're going to save a goat.
I think that the best way to train for trauma care is trauma. And that's all I really care to say about that. So you should have, a decent level of medical training, at least for the immediate cuts, bleeds, and breaks. know how to splint something when you're on a hike, know how to wrap a knee or an ankle, until you can get somebody to a hospital. Wrists.
Well, not an elbow. Can't really.
But the most important out of all of that is how to perform a Heimlich, how to do compression only CPR, and
for babies and adults.
Yes,
you need both.
You need both. Because babies have probably one of the highest choking hazards. They haven't figured out how to do all that yet. And they like to stuff things in their mouth.
Anyways. The women at the bar have that same problem. Anyways.
And with that, it ties in pretty well, both wilderness and urban survival.
I agree. I think that those are some very good skills. And pick something, and here's the cool thing about it. Stepping out of your comfort zone to learn some of these things that normally you wouldn't learn. Like if you're constantly in an urban environment, I strongly recommend, go to a wilderness survival on top of that urban environment. But you need to kind of shock your system. Yeah, you need to know how to operate in your environment, but your environment can change at a drop of a hat.
Right.
And being able to subject yourself to, it blows my mind to meet people that have never been camping.
And I hate camping. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I was in the Boy Scouts. I'm actually an Eagle Scout with a bronze palm. Thank you, as I brush my shoulders off.
Sissy la, just because he doesn't want to.
And on top of that, all the field training that we did in the Marine Corps, as well as deployments, jungle warfare, the whole 9 yards.
It's horrible.
So cold weather training, can't forget that.
Some of my most favorite training in the entire world.
Yeah, and you know what? And for some people, it is more fun than you will ever have with your pants on.
I'm gonna go home and touch myself thinking about that kind of stuff now.
But this is something that doesn't touch everybody's lives, and so if all you've ever done is gone like glamping as they call it, RVs and pop up tent trailers and a campfire ring in a nice little, state park where there's 40 other people in the little cul-de-sac of campsites.
Yeah, and you can go shit in a fucking steel fucking porta-shitter type of thing.
Oh, even like the big bricked and tiled bathrooms with showers and everything. Right. That's not camping, okay? It's camping. It's not wilderness survival, okay? Right. There's a huge difference. So learning wilderness survival, once again, there are a bunch of different places you can go for that. One of those, especially for those here in Utah, On Point Tactical, Kevin Reeve, he's got a bunch of great stuff for that. But on top of, you have urban survival, and that's also a really important one. How can you negotiate a city when you are the wrong person that night, right?
Right.
Right. Immediately that jumps in my head is that dude that got shot in the chest was it Portland? I want to say it was Portland. It might have been Seattle.
I don't pay enough attention. I
know you don't. And he was walking around. He had just come back from like one of the Proud Boy demonstrations or something like that. And he's wearing a MAGA hat. It's dark. There's people all over the city. Yeah. It's crawling with, Antifa types and BLM types during the riots. And this dude's got a MAGA hat on and he's just walking back to his car or whatever. And somebody says, "Hey, it's a Trumper. Get him."
Oh, yeah. I remember.
And then that bald dude, I don't remember his name, comes out of nowhere, produces a firearm, shoots him, kills him. And everybody tried to walk that back like he wasn't a part of like the big time, demonstrations and stuff. But I mean, his Twitter account was like 100% Antifa, like in capital letters, like in his where you'd normally put like the pronouns.
Right. That's
so. You have to understand how to negotiate an urban environment. You have to be able to understand that it's not okay for you to be as white as I am, walking through Crenshaw at 5:00 in the afternoon. Like, that's not a great place for me to be.
Once the sun starts to go down and you're on Crenshaw Boulevard, you're definitely in the wrong place.
Right. And if you don't know that, you become one of the 6 o'clock news stories.
Or if you're not with people from that area that can vouch for you, and even then they're like, you too white, come sit on the porch.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Hey, get your butt in here. I'll call you a cab.
Yeah.
So tracking, this goes a lot with, the wilderness survival. But this is kind of the back end of that. Not only for you avid hunters out there, I highly recommend a tracking class, for those of you who are interested in upping your game for hunting. But when it comes to finding a lost child, right, and you're on a search and rescue, being able to volunteer for things like search and rescue, being able to find the person who just made off with your very expensive something, and you're trying to figure out, in the back 40 of your property where he went. These are things that you might want to know. So tracking's a big one. I love tracking. Now these are the hard skills. Okay. This is not the everyday. This is what we do day in and day out. There's a bunch of stuff that a bad guy needs to do that's a softer touch. And we wanted to run through a couple of these things with you guys because if you don't have the soft skills, and there was a lot of this talk at the conference that we just went to, if you don't have those soft skills, you're not going to be welcome in polite society for very long. Like, right. You can't run a business if you don't have customer service skills. Right. So if all you've ever done is yell at junior Marines and tell them what giant piles of mush, garbage shit they are, then you're not going to make it very long as a manager at an REI outfitter. Right. So, and you're not going to make it very long, if you're telling your principal or your client or your training class that they're big piles of steamy garbage.
Unless you're Clint from Thunder Mountain Ranch.
Sure. I understand that reference.
Oh, you don't know who Clint is from Thunder Mountain?
No.
Oh, he's a shooting instructor. He's a former Marine, but he's well, not former, but yeah, whatever. He is that guy that a lot of people reference, and he's like, doesn't matter what kind of gun you carry a gun type of thing, and practice guns. He's a Vietnam veteran. He's a dope dude. If you get a chance to see him, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Oh, right on. Yeah. So, these harder skills are very important, and they are for those inevitabilities. Some of these other inevitabilities can catch you off guard. Cooking. If you don't know how to make a nice meal,
fellas, listen up.
Yes,
seriously,
for real. For all the roommates I had in my mid-20s, please listen. You have to know how to make a good meal.
Right.
And mac and cheese and top ramen and, beans and weenies are not nice meals.
Right.
They taste good. They're not nice meals. Oh. You should know how to cook a medium rare steak. You should know how to prepare chicken. You should know, not just dry, I'm eating chicken. You should know how to prepare chicken in 3 or 4 different ways.
Right. And shout out to Mr. Scotty, because Mr. Scotty is dope with the kitchen skills.
You should know how to prepare something that when you need to impress a lady friend, a guy friend, a they be, whatever the PC. that's the younger generation. No, your boss, a client. You're having a dinner get together with a handful of people that you want to network with. You should be able to make something nice, because if you cater everything all the time, small groups, one-on-ones, big groups, you are doing a disservice, because it can look disingenuous when you're inviting people into your home and a home cooked meal says, I took the time to care about the people that are around this table.
Absolutely. I mean, even I've heard, I can't remember who tells the story. Maybe it's Eric that tells this story about cooking. There was a detail where the cook either got fired or just couldn't show up to the detail or something like that. They had a private chef. Mm-hmm. And one of the EP guys was like, I used to cook, just kind of like, I'll throw it out there. Like, I used to cook. He didn't make a big deal out of it, but he was actually a chef.
Yeah. Wasn't he like cordon bleu trained or something?
Yeah, like some kind of crazy, like serious training. Like he went to some serious school. He suddenly became contracted out to cook for the client. Like that's what his job turned into. And actually ended up making more money as the cook than he would have doing the EP stuff.
Yeah. And what better than to have a chef with a concealed firearm at your dinner party,
or
less than something goes wild.
How to evacuate you when somebody does sneak into your dinner party and suddenly he's like, oh, I know the protocol for this.
Right. Tailoring. We talked about that a little bit here at the start of the episode. You should know how to patch sew things, to mend things in a jiffy. You don't have to be able to make a 3-piece suit on a sewing machine.
If you can, call me because that's pretty dope.
Yes, that's a real skill. That's a career skill right there.
Yeah, that's like being a cobbler.
Right. So you should at least have a general understanding of how to pick up a needle and thread and run those things so that whatever it is that you are repairing expeditiously will not continue to fail while you accomplish your mission.
Right. I'm going to throw something else in there too for those fellas. Learn how to do your laundry and use an iron. I'm just going to say that. I mean, a lot of the fabrics now you don't need to iron, but if you don't know how to use that kind of stuff, like ask somebody.
Job interviews.
Do yourself a favor.
Going out to, a banquet or something. If you can't put on pressed clothes for a serious event, you are going to stick out like a sore thumb. Like, and I've tried over and over again to purchase these iron free, no need iron, hang dry press, whatever.
Right.
None of these work. None of them.
Right.
They don't.
Especially when we fly.
Yeah. They don't work as advertised. You're going to pull that thing out and it's going to look like you shoved it in your sock drawer. So yes, you should be able to.
That's the Marine Corps coming out in us. Just so you all know, you got summer wrinkles, summer here, summer there.
Yeah. And so, on top of that, because the inevitable, you're going to be invited to a wedding. You're going to be unfortunately have to attend a funeral or two. And on top of that, if you do your job well, if you network well, you're going to end up at some nice gatherings.
Right. And if you look at the bad guy aspect of it, you have to fit into whatever you're doing. And sometimes that can be within hours, going from shorts and flip-flops to a golf shirt and tennis shoes straight to a 3-piece suit.
Right.
And if you don't understand how that works, of your belt should match your shoes, and your tie should be tied a certain way depending on where you're at. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to tie a big, Celtic knot at a very formal dinner.
Right. Full Windsor.
Yeah.
Don't be lazy. The half Windsor's bullshit. Full Windsor.
That's
all I have to say about that.
You're right.
So also on top of all of that is etiquette. Oh. You should have some basic etiquette training. And I'm not talking about like the 80 forks and knives and spoons.
But it is helpful to know what it is.
It is helpful. And there are perfectly simple diagrams that you can pull up on your phone today and say, I've always wondered about that. Like, which fork do I start with?
Right.
You have a salad fork. You have a dinner fork. You have a dessert fork. You have a dessert and coffee spoon. You have a
butter knife. You have a knife. And then you have
Yeah.
Spreading knife and all that other crap.
Yes. So, but you should also understand how to be welcomed and how to welcome people to an event. Right. You should understand how things work in a formal gathering for presentations, for giving toasts,
right,
and the like. Because if you don't understand the tempo and the pace and the expectation, you're going to not be able to be a gray man. You're going to stick out like a sore thumb, and you're going to look out of place.
Yeah, that customs and courtesies. I mean, be aware. Maybe your boss is Sikh. You know what I mean? Like, you could be kind of disrespectful depending on what that situation is, and you're at their home, and maybe they're super traditional, and you could be very disrespectful, not even knowing it.
Customs and courtesies are essential.
Right.
You go into a nice, and I'm not talking about like a hibachi grill somewhere. If you go into a nice Japanese restaurant and you see cupboards as you come in, those are for your shoes.
Right. Take
your shoes off. If you're going somewhere, and like you say, with Sikhs, it depends on the culture and the customs of the people that you're meeting with, and it changes,
right,
depending on what you're doing and who you're interacting with. And so if you don't have an understanding that, you can offend people, and you can damage potential relationships, existing relationships, by not understanding the place that you're in. If you're eating, a home prepared Mexican meal, you do not lick your fingers. That's not what you do. And if you are at a Samoan's home and they have prepared a traditional Samoan dinner, you do lick your fingers.
You burp, you chew, you...
Oh, yeah, you snarf. Yeah. Right. So there's a bunch of these things that, the little idiosyncrasies, the nuances that help you get to where you need to be. So learn another language.
Yes.
There are some recommended ones. Spanish is a really good one, especially if you're in the Southwest like we are.
I kind of feel like your kids right now, not that I really want to focus on your kids or anything, but you guys have some house guests that would probably be perfect to help with that language situation. Not only your wife, but your house guests could help the kids really kind of hone in.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you should always take advantage of an opportunity when you're learning a language to speak that language to native speakers.
Right.
Just, if anything, just to get the corrections that, oh, yeah, no, you did a great job, but try rolling your R a little harder on this word.
Right.
Whatever. Or the sentence structure is like this.
Right.
Chinese, we're all going to be speaking Mandarin one day because the Chinese are taking over the world one little island at a time. Yeah. Well, yeah. One business and one island at a time.
Right.
But it really depends on what cultures you interact with most, the regions that you're going to. A lot of guys who went overseas and were doing contracting work, they would hire, one of the base workers, one of the camp workers, to tutor them for an hour every evening in Arabic or, Farsi or Pashto, whatever, was right. being spoken in that region. So, and that has benefited them greatly. If you learned Arabic while you were overseas and you had time with native speakers, and you've
dialect, got
you've got a good heavy Iraqi, like nailed it. Right. And now you're dealing with Iraqi businessmen in New York City somewhere. Like, dude, you're going to get the best prices on wholesale rugs you have ever seen.
Well, even those guys in the EP world, when the royal families come here, because they own a lot of homes, a lot of private property, and you look at it, you know Farsi or whatever, and you're able to walk in and be like, yeah, I can read it, write it, speak it in dialect that it turns into oh, wow, okay, here's my guy. I'm going to pay top dollar for him.
Right. Learn a martial art. And the reason I put this in soft skills is because martial arts is not just for beating the shit out of people and keeping you from getting your ass whipped.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of discipline that is taught from the ground up in martial arts. It doesn't matter if it's jujitsu, aikido, taekwondo, karate, like you name it, it's in there. And, you know, learning the wisdom of the old masters. I mean, that's, you know, you start getting into Buddhism, Shintoism, Taoism, and it's very much like, you know, the Stoicism, you know, that we draw from the Greeks and Roman philosophers
I kind of
all the way
like
to today.
They all kind of feed off of each other.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that needs to be, you know, being learned, I guess, if I'm going to try and sound smart, of many different things, even reading and opening your mind to other things and learning something new every day. I think that everybody needs to read, not on your phone, get a book,
Yeah.
an actual book,
Be well read.
and sit for 10 minutes and read a book, something that will actually exercise your mind and you learn something from, not Lord of the Rings. I mean, actually learning something that can help you.
Well, look, the Tolkien universe, you know, is incredibly complex. I don't know what you're talking about. No, but you should be able to learn not only to read well and to be literate, but it should be in complex ideas that challenge your mind and that challenge your preconceived notions. So you should read things that abruptly confront your upbringing and your faith and you know, the education that you received. Hey, read something about world history written by someone on the other side.
Or even you really want to get into it? I mean, politically, and let's talk about politically. You know what I mean? Go the other side of the fence. Like literally, and have an open mind to it, of being like, oh, okay, maybe I see their perspective. I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
But now I know what they're fighting about.
If you want to argue against, you know, these Antifa Marxist dumb shits, then you have to have read, you know, Karl Marx Manifesto.
Right.
Like
you have to understand that.
Yeah. You have to.
No, thank you. But I should, but no, thank you.
Yeah. The Communist Manifesto, or, you know, no, I'm not going to say, the other one. No, but there's a lot of things out there where you can pick up where people are coming from, and then you can relate to those issues in a more complex way. And you say, look, I understand, you know, the workers' strife and, you know, this and that and the labor, you know, disputes. However, have you considered this? And then you can present your argument from an educated position where you're speaking their language. And that's why I really like Stoicism. That's why I like reading a lot of the libertas level reading, Ayn Rand and, you know, economists, history books, you know, the Gulag Archipelago and things like that, because it lets you see in through different windows and expands and expounds your mind. So,
what else you got?
Oh man,
I mean,
the reading one is a really good one, and I don't want to keep digging into that whole, you know, because we're going a little long.
I kind of feel like if you can, to be a good bad guy, you need to be pretty well rounded. And when I say well rounded, I mean, you know, understand how to eat, understand how to educate yourself, understand that you are going to be your first responder. You're your own first responder, and you have to have that mindset. And I think that with that, educating yourself and becoming very well rounded in that aspect, it takes maybe, I'm not trying to preach it because I don't practice it, but get up 45 minutes earlier, go walk. I'm not telling you to go to the gym. I'm not telling you to go lift a bunch of weights or go run 10 miles. I'm not telling you that. Go out and walk, just stretch, and then take 5-10 minutes and meditate. Figure out what you're doing for the day. Get a clear mindset. Read a little bit.
I know a 72-year-old that walks somewhere between 5 and 10 miles every single day and hasn't failed in years.
Right.
Goes up to the top of something very tall and meditates and then comes back down.
Right. And he's a very intelligent gentleman.
Incredibly intelligent. So in all of this, there are courses available all over the planet, all over the country. Mr. Frost, how does one vet a good course?
Honestly, with social media now, I think that it's easier to vet a course, to be very honest with you, when you start getting into a tribe. And I think that, it may be an extended tribe. It's not your direct tribe, but I think, throwing that question out there and being vulnerable of like, hey, has anybody gone to this course?
Right.
Like, what did you think of it?
Because you can only take so much from reviews.
Right.
And some people have paid reviews. Some people have like we beg all of you to do, as our family and friends, like, hey, climb on, leave us a review, leave us 5 stars, shameless plug for badguyforhire.com.
Right.
Go to our Patreon and subscribe. But yes, you should be able to pick up a phone or shoot a text and say, hey, hey, Facebook group, has anyone tried this particular course, or what do you recommend I do because I want to learn this skill set? And they'll say, oh, my sister's cousin went to this thing and now he's doing this, or I took this course personally and I have the instructor's phone number and we're speed dial buddies. So you should, in every course that you're going to go to, vet your course. Because there's a lot of these cheapskates out there, and I'm thinking of one in particular. I'm not going to name names, but there's a guy out there who's teaching firearm training and disarms and self-defense techniques that will get your brains blown out. And
there's probably a lot of those guys, to be very honest.
They called him out at the ISPB, like on stage.
Oh wow!
I was sitting there at one of the panel discussions, and they were like, not going to shout anybody out here, but so-and-so, if you're training with so-and-so, whatever, like, I'm not going to hire you to be a part of my team to come do EP. And I was like, oh shit. But also accreditation. You have to make sure yourself, because I've been hoodwinked.
Right.
I spent $4,500 on a course that I met a lot of good dudes. I had some amazing instructors, but the certifications weren't worth the paper they were printed on because they didn't have accreditation. So my Maritime Security STCW 95 course is useless because even though it's the identical information that every other course would teach me, it wasn't accredited. And they said they were. And thankfully, that company failed later on because of class action suits and settlements and judgments and all sorts of things. I had the CEO of that company call me months later, or no, it was like a year and a half, 2 years later, whatever it was. He called me as one of the first people who had gone through his course. I was part of class 1. And he was like, hey, man, do you want to buy the company? I was like, no.
Why?
You want to leave that hot potato in my hands?
Right.
Like, he probably had like a week, until the judgment was going to come out, and whoever was holding the paperwork on ownership of the company was just going to get flipping bombed.
Right.
But yes, vet the training that you're going to. And when do you start? Dude, yesterday. And I'm not trying to give you the anxiety. Like it's not one of those things where you say next week. It has to be.
And that's not necessarily going to a paid training thing. That's just starting.
Cracking open a book.
Yeah.
Going for a walk.
Taking that first step is the best way.
Yeah. Downloading.
You can download an app on how to tie knots.
Yeah. You can download Duolingo and start working on a language.
Right.
Like there's nothing that you can't do now with technology, with as safe, as we are, you can step out on the street and go work out, get some fresh air, go meditate somewhere, stare at the ocean or a pond or some ducks or, whatever, read a book, get some sunlight and start working on you.
Right.
And when you work on you, you are better equipped to help others. And that's what a bad guy is all about. The bad guy is there to help push you along and spread that training far and wide. And that's why we're here. We do CCW classes, concealed weapons permits for the state of Utah. We do CQB training, and we will maul you to death during that, but you're going to learn how to deal with an attacker. Situational awareness classes. The list goes on, and we can provide, a bunch of different services, and in those services where we're giving people a hard time, sometimes making people having their worst day on the job they've ever had. Can you imagine, the ass chewing that somebody gets when I get through, the front door and walk past them and they're the, front desk liaison or security guard or whatever. I walk right past them and say, oh, hey, oh yeah, no, I've got a meeting with the CEO. I'm already late. And David said I just had to run up. And because I, Google searched or had already been in talks with, the lead staff and everything, I know what the CEO's name is, but I called him by his first name, and now he's like, oh, well, I don't want to have to deal with the CEO crawling down my throat for, holding up a meeting. No, now I'm in your building, and he's going to get incredible ass chewing. He's not going to get fired, but unless he's incredibly, neglectful and was asleep on the job or, he had a half smoked, no joke, half smoked joint sitting on the counter. I'm not going to name the name, but there was a guy.
He wants to really, really bad.
He walked in and he was doing a spot check on a security guard, and this dude had a half smoked joint sitting on the counter because it was cold outside. So he smoked half. He was going to smoke the other half later after he warmed up, and was sound asleep.
Sound asleep.
So yeah, no, bad guys for good reasons, to be able to uplift the people around us and get them prepared for when the real bad guys, those evil motherfuckers that are out there, that they're going to be confronted by somebody who has a fighting chance, who is prepared, who knows their shit, who's well networked, who's well spoken and well read, who can hold their own, in a courtroom or in a tense situation.
There is nothing scarier than interacting with somebody who knows what they're talking about and what they can do.
Yeah.
I will tell you, like, I not to like sound cool, like the cool guy or name drop or anything like that, because I'm not going to say names, but I have had the privilege to be able to work and be around some heavy fucking hitters, pipe hitters in the EP industry and in the military. Like some serious cool dudes, and they're not very big. They're not, but they're smart as fuck.
Yeah. And when they open their mouth,
they're super skilled. And then all of a sudden you're like, this dude's covered in tattoos. He's got this big beard. He's got long hair.
Looks like a narc.
Yeah. Looks like a narco. And then suddenly he's like, yeah, I know 13 different languages. What? Oh yeah, I'm literate in all 13 different languages.
I have 20 patents for inventions.
Right. I'm capable of, I know this person. I make 6 figures in a month because I just was smart and educated myself. I didn't go to college. I didn't do anything. I just figured it out.
Yep. All right. Well, that's it for the long haul, yelling and shouting, and telling you that you're doing a bad job.
Learn how to make fires too.
Stop sucking. I'm going to blow the door and we're going to get the hell out of here. Hey, thanks again, everybody, for listening. Another big shout out for Thomas Larson, our executive producer. Big shout out to all of our new Patreon subscribers. Big love. For those of you that aren't subscribing, seriously, fuck you. Subscribe to our Patreon. Throw some money on there because every dollar counts. And so I want at least 5 from every last one of you. If you're enjoying, what we're doing and what we're talking about, this is what makes the business grow, and therefore we can go out and do what makes the grass grow. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you later.
On the windowsill.
Thank you for listening to Oppositional Forces, Wage War, and Stack Bodies.